This very special episode of Soulful Conversations is proudly sponsored by Otis Eyewear, makers of radical sunglasses that have glass lenses instead of plastic, which is in most sunglasses. So thank you very much to the legends at Otis. And if you do want to be sporting a pair of Otis Sunnies, go to the website and put in the promo code in capitals Ash and Otis for a 25% discount. That is au.otiseyewear.com. Today we've got a very special podcast because it's about the controversial issue of medical marijuana, and we just wanted to give you a first-hand account of our experiences with it. Welcome to Soulful Conversations with Ash Grunwald. In this podcast, we interview inspiring and amazing people, musicians, surfers, and experts in mindset, creativity, health, well-being, and making the world a better place. I'm tired of beating around the bush. I want to go deep and have a soulful conversation.
This podcast is brought to you by Earth Bottles. At Earth Bottles, we are on a mission to end single-use plastics, offering a full range of beautiful double-insulated bottles, reusable coffee cups, food and tea canisters, stainless steel straws, bags, and lots of plastic-free eco-goodies. Earth Bottles proudly supports the Breast Cancer Network of Australia, Beyond Blue, Hope for Health, Clean Coast Collective, 15 Trees, Bali Baby House, and the UN Refugee Agency. So head over to www.earthbottles.com.au for a 10% discount using the promo code ASHLOVESME. Together, we can make a change and break up with single-use plastics.
Welcome back to Soulful Conversations. This is a very special edition. It's very much driven by inspiration. I posted something on social media the other day sharing my experiences with my father-in-law dealing with his cancer through medical cannabis. And I just had an overwhelming response and so many questions. So we've set up this podcast to try and answer some of those questions. And I've finally managed to get my lovely wife, Danny, into the studio, which I've been trying to do since I started Soulful Conversation. So that's very good. So how you going, Danny?
Hi.
You've heard the Earth Bottles ad on the podcast. And that is a company run by Danny and me.
Hi.
And it's cool. This might be the weirdest interview because it's a husband and wife. We're not here to talk about that. But anyway, we wanted to speak really openly and honestly about everything and give you the maximum information to the best of our knowledge. So we're going to start with the disclaimer that nothing that we say is medical advice, of course. And really what we're trying to do is encourage everybody to make their own decisions. Don't go, obviously, by what we say. Don't poo-hoo doctors. But then again, what I think is, don't just go by what doctors say necessarily, especially when it comes to that terminal time. Anyway, we're going to share the story. The reason I was moved to put what I put up on social media was that I was really moved when we went into the Nimbin Embassy the other day and told the ladies in there what a great experience we'd had with your dad. And you were saying, I just remember being so scared when we came in here last time thinking my dad was going to die. So let's do a little recap on how it started with your dad.
Okay, so we'll start by talking firstly about how we got into this, and that Dad was diagnosed with lung cancer. We found out he had lung cancer in April, and they did a biopsy, and then by the first week of May, we found that it was stage 4 small cell lung cancer, which is super aggressive, and he was basically given 3 months to live. The oncologist said that he wasn't eligible for chemo and those kind of treatments because of his age. Dad was 83 then. So basically get your affairs in order and get out of here. A week later, he went back to the oncologist and they said, look, we've thought about it, we've discussed it. You probably are fit enough to handle some chemotherapy because at this stage Dad was feeling pretty desperate because he didn't want to die. He's still a really fit and active 80-year-old. So they'd looked at, they'd assessed him and thought that he probably could handle chemotherapy, and said that if he took on the 6 rounds of chemotherapy, he might make it to Christmas time. So either 3 months to live untreated or six months with 6 rounds of chemo, really poor quality of life, but see how it goes. So even though Dad was strongly opposed to chemo, he thought, that's what I'm going to do because I don't want to die and I want longer than 3 months. So he went in kind of against what he believed in, but he went in and did 1 round of chemo, but was feeling really apprehensive about it. He came home and then just ended up so sick that, remember, Ash, they rushed him to hospital in an ambulance, and he got put into the intensive care unit, kind of thought he wasn't going to make it through, and he was just really sick. And by this stage, his hair's all falling out in clumps, and Dad loves his beautiful grey hair. He's got really thick grey hair, not even sort of slightly balding. Lost all that. That was enough for him to go, because he's quite vain, my dad. So that was enough for him to go, stuff this. He told the oncologist where he can put his chemotherapy treatments and said, I'm not doing this. And meanwhile, Ash and I had been researching alternative therapies, thinking that, even if we can get him a few months extra with some decent quality of life, that would be a good way. That would be how we'd sort of go about it if he was open to it. And Dad's quite old school, so we didn't know, how we'd go with that. But he just said, I'll try anything. So in our research, we've found a lot of testimonials and information on medical marijuana, cannabis oil, treating and curing cancer, not just treating it, but curing cancer. So I kind of was a bit nervous to bring it up with Dad because he's never had a joint in his life or anything like that. So, but he was really open to it. He's like, we showed him some videos of people saying how they'd cured their cancer, other people saying that they weren't feeling sick anymore, all this kind of stuff. So he said, okay, let's go for it. So that's what we did. We got him some oils to start on, kind of weak ones. And then we heard that through another cancer person treating their own cancer with alternative therapies had gone.
So sorry, people. I had to delete that for legal reasons, the information on where we actually went, but you can do some Googling and look around in your local area, or if you're in the Northern Rivers area, maybe direct message me and I can tell you where it is.
And got hold of some pretty strong oils. So we went out there and spoke with the lady out there. Yeah, and it was amazing. She gave us so much hope and so many stories of people that had cured their cancer.
She said at that point they had actually saved 300 people's lives.
Yeah. So we just went for it. I think it was around $1,500 for a 90-day protocol, and that was CBD oil, so straight CBD with no THC, and then really high THC. So we had looked into getting this through the doctors, and even Dad's oncologist said, yes, some oncologists are prescribing it, but you had to have had exhausted every other avenue. So you had to have done all the rounds of chemo, radiation, anything else that they have on offer. You had to have done that first before you're eligible to get it through the medical system. And so that wasn't an option for Dad, so we had to do it this way. So we got really strong, the THC, the CBD. What do we do? We sent it down to him. Yeah.
It's probably a good time to talk about dosage and stuff like that. And obviously what we would recommend is that you go see somebody who knows what they're doing. Don't take it for us. I know it varies for different cancers and stuff, but the general idea in this was that the CBD and the THC work kind of synergistically together. The CBD does slow down the spread of the cancer and help with other stuff. I believe it helps with dealing with chemo too. And the THC actively fights the cancer. And the theory is that it assists apoptosis, which is the process that is a healthy process that you normally have going in your body, where your body breaks down cells that are unwanted. But cancer seems to trick the body, and the body doesn't recognize it to break it down with that natural apoptosis. But I think that what the THC does is disrupt the wall of the cells and basically allow it to be seen by the body, and it starts to break down.
Yeah, I think it does something like it disrupts the DNA around the cell, the cancer cell, apparently. I'm not a doctor or scientist, so don't quote me on that, but that's what we kind of found out through what we'd studied. So I think by this stage, Dad had decided to come up to our place because he was there was a whole lot of other stuff as well, the dietary changes and things like that. So they hitched up their caravan and drove up, and there was, some people in the family not so stoked about it, and rightly so. They thought they might not see Dad again because he'd only, by this stage he'd been given 3 months to live, and this is probably a month later by this stage. So they're thinking he only had a couple of months to live. And he was pretty sick, wasn't he, at that stage? Like, when they walked in that first day, I was like, whoa, he looked really...
He looked diminished.
Oh, it was terrible. And he was very skinny and grey coloured and no hair, all of that. So we'd also found out about cutting out the sugars, that cancer feeds off sugar. So we were going to put him onto a really strict diet. I'm just writing a blog about this too, so you can go over to my website, earthbottles.com.au, which will have all this information written down, as much as I can kind of, give. So yeah, we started him on a really strict diet of no sugar. That means no grains, no fruits. The only fruit he had was berries, and to have that before a meal, not after. It's easier for the body to digest. No dairy, no meat. Basically anything acidic, so we cut out all the acidic foods and then put him on a high alkaline diet, which also included bicarb and lemon drink, which is said to alkaline the body, twice a day. We did that. Some juicing when he could get it down, because he was quite ill at this stage, so he was feeling very nauseous. As we went on, this went on for about 8 weeks, it was up and down. So some days he'd be good, other days he'd be laid out on the couch. We didn't know if he was going to make it through that day even. There was he'd have full-on bouts of diarrhea. Some remember one night he was vomiting all night.
Yeah.
There was all sorts of stuff going on. So we didn't know if that was the cancer. We didn't know if that was detoxing. We still don't know if it was the cancer dying off, if it was the cancer spreading. There was hot sweats. There was all sorts of things going on. So we're not medically trained, so we were just going with everything we were reading and just going for it. So we did that with the diet. So it wasn't just we don't know exact what it was that's got him to where he is now, because he's amazing now. A gratitude journal. So every night we'd sit there writing our gratitudes as a family, and also for Dad, which was really beautiful. And just to see him, this old man, would be grateful for his cancer even, because it caused such an outpouring of love. We got a lot of friends around here. We're so lucky supporting us. Lissy Turner from the Yoga Shack was coming in and doing breathing exercises and chanting, which is pretty funny.
Yeah,
so
that was hilarious.
The
that
old
was so
fella,
good.
Ma. We sound like we're in some weird cult.
I just wanted to jump back to the gratitude thing. That sounds like, if you're not into that, that might sound like the biggest airy-fairy kind of thing, and you think, oh, well, how's that going to stop cancer? But there is a lot of research on that stuff, and even going right to Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, that book about being in the concentration camps and being one of the few survivors and seeing the people that survive. I think one of the biggest ingredients in surviving something like cancer is actually hope. And that was one thing about John, is he was like, I'm not going out like this, and he fully believed, once we started on this mission, that it was going to work out, and he really did wasn't he impressive like that? Yeah, so that gratitude and hope and the positive thinking, I think, was helpful as well.
Yeah, and so all the while too, we're doing a lot of cannabis oils. So basically, have spoken to people and I've heard from people where they've said they've tried the cannabis oil, it didn't work, with someone in their family. That might have just been the case, but often we found that they were only using a few drops. So with Dad, for example, the THC that he was on, he had to have 20 drops of that a day, which is a lot. So if I was to have 2 drops of that, I'd be pretty off my face. So I'm thinking, oh my God, how are we going to get this into Dad? We tried 20 drops with Ash, who...
I ended up tripping balls
He
from
was
it.
tripping balls.
It was a deeply horrific... I had to be the crash test dummy for all of this stuff, and it was a deeply horrific experience having 20 drops of that stuff. I was actually seeing cartoon figures and stuff like that. That's never happened to me in my life before.
Yeah, so we were thinking, oh my God, how are we going to give this to Dad? This just seems hopeless. They did say, though, that you can start with a few drops. After a few days, double it. After a few days, double it.
Work up your tolerance.
But that was going to take too long. So then we'd heard that if you put it up your bum, basically, there's now, again, don't quote me, from what I've read, there's an enzyme in the liver that reacts with the THC, which causes the psychoactive effects. So it bypasses the liver for some reason, going up the bum. So yeah, our dummy tried that. So mixing it down with some...
I'm just going to say it. I put marijuana oil up my bum. I had to be the bloody test case crash dummy for this whole escapade.
I know you're pretty happy up until I said, Ash, bend over and put this up your bum.
It was horrific. But
it wasn't really.
It wasn't horrific at all because it doesn't have any effect at all if you have it that way. And I'm thinking for people who are listening out there, and especially a lot of parents, even though they might really find it hard to get their head around that idea, if they're worried about being stoners, which I know a lot of people are, especially oldies.
And my dad was.
And, well, if you do it that way, you can make a suppository or something. You don't get stoned at all. So this isn't an issue of getting stoned, people.
Yeah. So that's what we did. So we put the 20 drops into some MCT oil and let that cool down, put it into a syringe, and then squirt it up there. And
we didn't administer it.
No, Dad administered that himself. But he would have a beautiful sleep every night. He'd just have the most beautiful sleep. And then in the morning, he'd wake up and have the straight CBD paste or oil. And that apparently also can get rid of the fuzzy feeling, the fuzzy head and whatever in the morning.
If you have it, which he didn't really that much.
No, he didn't have too much of a fuzzy head from it. But yeah, so that's what we did. So we were doing that, the no sugar, he was up and down, the breathing. My friend Danny Satori, a beautiful acupuncturist friend, also came and offered up her services. She does Neuralink as well, so she did a few sessions. Then we're lucky enough to have an amazing GP here in Ocean Shores, who they're called Ocean Shores Environmental and Nutritional Medicine. We saw Marcus there, who's a GP, but also specialises in nutritional medicine as well. So then we put Dad on really high dosage vitamin C drip and vitamin B. Yeah, so that, the breathing, the chanting, the gratitudes, heaps of CBD. Then, to put another twist on it, just before Dad was leaving, my uncle was ringing me and saying he'd heard about a guy called Joe Tippins who had the same cancer as Dad, but completely riddled with it. I'll just point out that Dad's lung cancer was in both lungs and it spread to the lymph nodes, but hadn't progressed any further in his body at this stage. So Joe Tippins, this guy had it throughout his whole body, head to toe. He'd heard through a friend that there was something in dog worming tablets, which would be on my blog, the actual name of it, having that was killing cancers in lab rats.
There's an active ingredient that it actually did get. They did a lot of research on it back in the 90s, and it was sort of came out, and then it left the shelves. That ingredient that is only found in a dog worming tablet. So you have to go to the vet and try and get it. But now I think you have to present your dog if you want to get it.
Yeah, because they were sort of onto people getting that. So we got that. And then this Joe Tippins guy was taking that with turmeric tablets, vitamin E and CBD oil. And his cancer got cured within, 8 weeks, I think, Ash. You can YouTube that guy's story. So we got Dad on that as well. So 3 days on the dog worming tablets, 5 days off. So we did that. He did that for 8 weeks as well. So fast forward, Dad left with Mum, at home in his car. He drove home, not in a box. At one stage we were there talking like maybe he would be passing away here. Didn't happen. And I just got back from their house. So he made it to Christmas, which was awesome. We had an amazing family Christmas.
We should mention we already had an early Christmas in August because we thought he might not make it. So.
Yeah, so we did an early family Christmas in August around his birthday. So he made it to Christmas really good, like just getting stronger and stronger each day, putting on weight. When he got to our house, he was 6 kilos under his normal weight, and Dad's not a big guy either, and I just got back from their place. I went up and delivered him some more oils on the weekend, and he's back to his normal weight plus another couple of kilos, so he's a little bit overweight, just a little. He looks unbelievable. He's golfing every day, he's fishing most days, he's out in the garden every day. He's just amazing, and he doesn't look like he's got cancer. He doesn't even look. He saw his oncologist, who wanted to see Dad just to see how he was going, and his oncologist was so shocked. He couldn't believe that he was still alive, let alone walking around and up and about and looking as well as he does. So it's been amazing. We have said to Dad, and the oncologist wanted to do some tests, but Dad at this stage doesn't want to do that because he said he feels so good within himself that if it has spread or if there's anything like that, he doesn't want to know that in the back of his mind, because as far as he's concerned, he thinks it's gone. So whether it's mind over matter, whether he is cured or if it's slowed down, we don't know. But I think that's really, that's his choice. I'm interested. I'd like to know. But yeah, he doesn't want to at this stage, but Dad said he'll know, in his words, I'll know when I'm rat shit. But he's nowhere near that at the moment. So I think he feels that if he got some tests and it came back not good, that it would set him back. But all I know, it's like a different person from what he was when he came up in June. It was that he came up here. He's like a new guy. It's insane. So I don't know. I can't say that it's cured. I really can't say anything other than that what I see before me is this man that had 3 months to live and he's slaying it. It's amazing.
So everything, in those treatments that we mentioned, there might be some things that didn't do anything and some that were the primary cause. But what our whole theory when we were doing this is, let's try everything that is available to us. And then after the fact, let's speculate over what worked and didn't and why he's right. But let's just do it all. And it's whatever has worked. And there's certainly no evidence to suggest that it's not mainly I think the biggest thing is the cannabis and the diet. Even they said when we first went into the clinic, you can do the cannabis, but if you just keep eating junk food and whatever, it's probably not going to help too much. I think diet is really important. Also, I'm pretty sure it's all cancers feed on sugar. They have no fuel source if you don't give your body any sugar, and you can live on fats as energy. And I'm pretty sure that's the best way to eat in general, but I do know that there's different diets for different cancers.
I think the keto diet is really good. And we had another friend from the Byron Bay Smokehouse, Damien, who had a cancer, and he managed to shrink it right down, the tumour, just by basically he was on a keto diet, no sugar, high fats. He was eating meat, I think, but Dad, apparently with lung cancer, it's not good to have meat. because it's very taxing on the body. So Dad got rid of all the meat. Yeah, amazing.
So I know that there's a lot of commercially available oils. Just one thing that I've heard that I would like to pass on anecdotally, and that is that some of the commercially available kind of legal oils, they're really low THC, and I just don't know if that's really good, because I think it needs to be quite high THC. So that's just our own thoughts on the matter. But I've heard anecdotal stories of somebody getting stuff illegally and having high potency stuff, and it really stopping their cancer, and then going back to an oncologist and they said, "Oh, I've got the legal stuff for you now." Got on the legal stuff that was a lot lower, and then they declined after that and died. So it's just worth thinking about that. Yeah, so if you want to make your own, the first method, or one of the earliest methods and one of the pioneers of this, is Rick Simpson. And Dan, you jumped in there and made some Rick Simpson oil, didn't you?
Yeah, out at our friend's place we made some of the oils, and there's lots of stuff on YouTube on how to make that. That was really easy. You just have to have a plant to be able to make it, and probably a lot cheaper way of doing it. If you grow your own, then yeah. But
a lot of people have hit me up on Facebook and they've said, "Oh, it's so expensive." And it is, but when you actually make it, you realize it takes like a whole plant to make a couple of syringes worth of the oils. So it's of the paste, which is this sort of looks like tar, and that just one grain of rice is enough. If you had that, you would be so stoned. So it's got so much THC, but that's using the whole plant boiled down, really. So that's one really good method of getting it.
Actually, that's wrong.
Actually, not the buds, but
yeah.
the whole plant. You know, like it's not chemically moved to like CBD and this and that. It's got the whole plant in the bud.
There's some oils that you can get. The one we got for Dad from Nimbin was actually the whole plant.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can.
Was that called Uncle Pete's?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. What are some other sources of it? There's the Endoka.
Yeah, Endoka, they're good. They're based in Europe. A lot of people can get access to that.
Do they get that sent out? You can get that sent out.
Yeah, I was buying it through some chiropractors here and stuff, but that's more difficult. But I think you just ask around. But definitely do some Googling, and like I said, I'm writing up a quick blog post with a lot of this information on it. So if you go to earthbottles.com.au to the blog, it's called the Sustainability Journal. In there, I'll probably post that up today. Yeah.
And this is a rapidly expanding field, people. And I would say if you have a loved one or yourself in this predicament, keep asking questions and encourage yourself and others to remain open-minded and share all the good stories that are out there, which they're just multiplying daily. I mean, we have an endocannabinoid system. For whatever reason, we really do lock with that plant well, and it gives us a lot of medicinal value across a lot of different things. Fibromyalgia. What were some of the others that? MS, cancer, epilepsy, anxiety. There's so many things that this plant.
Crohn's disease. It's meant to be really good for Crohn's. There's lots of things. Yeah. Chronic pain, arthritis. Yeah, a lot of things.
Yeah, and it's just an amazing thing. So we just thought we would give you that information and that little first-hand good news story. So thanks so much for finally going on the podcast, Dan.
You're welcome.